Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spoonful podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mario, back with you. Joined today by Mr. Emmett Watkins Jr.
I love how the octave raise in here today was like, oh, a
It's
different
like
person.
it's like I'm surprised. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Who's joining
Like,
us
who's this
today?
motherfucker? Yeah, the only thing different about me is today I'm wearing Medea's Big Happy Family uh
Nice,
t-shirt from the play and not the
nice.
movie. Because that's how much of an OG Tyler Perry. I don't even want to call myself a Tyler Perry fan. Familiar with Tyler Perry, I am. I was watching the plays as a child.
Acquaintance. One could say.
That is a stronger word than fan, but I'll take it. He lives in Atlanta.
Yeah,
We're
you guys hang
family
out. You
practically.
guys hang out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. He's been to my house. I've been to his house, which
definitely.
is the size of my house times 4, but it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Nice relaxing week. Or actually I shouldn't say that. Work was a lot, but that was last week.
Fair.
This is this week. And this week has been pretty light on me, thankfully. I'm gonna be buying Zelda right after this show, so I'm very excited about that.
Mm.
Uh Played even more God of War. I think I legit have just a third of that game left.
Okay, where are you
Um
at? Where are you at without? I mean, I think the game's
ooh,
been out for a fair amount, so you can give some hints. You don't have to spoil the whole thing, but you can name
I'll
characters and
say
whatnot.
I'll say I just who Kratos was reintroduced to the scene in a very cool way that I didn't. I'll say this: we fought a dog. Where I'm in the middle of fighting that dog,
Got it.
actually.
Yeah,
Or I
that's
thought I beat. Yeah, I thought I beat the dog, and the dog came back, and that's where I had to stop.
first time you said that. The first hint you were giving me was getting me nowhere, but now I know exactly where you're at.
Exactly,
You let me
bingo.
see. Let me try to remember. Yeah, yeah. You're getting there. You're getting there.
Ooh boy, I'm very excited because I'm really getting to the stride of that game where like I want to get back to it and I want to play more, and I'm thinking about it when I'm not playing it. So it's like, oh boy, this is great.
I'm
But it's
gonna
like,
I'm gonna
ooh,
ask you a question, and I'm gonna
mhm.
try to ask it in a way that's not going to ruin it for you. Just because
Oh
I,
boy.
I I forget where the timeline of events happened, right? If the dog fights is after this or whatever it might be. Have you had a boss battle with a god yet, or no?
Huh. I
Like
don't think I
excluding
have.
Thor in the beginning of the game, obviously.
Okay, yeah, excluding Thor,
Okay,
and there was a little nightmaresy sequence. I don't know if that character is a god where
okay,
you were very tiny.
I know what you're talking
Um,
about.
yeah, I don't know if that was a god, but I
Okay,
feel like other than that, I haven't had any brawls with actual, oh, this is a titled god in the game,
okay,
like one of the main characters. Haven't had that. Haven't had that.
you'll get there.
But I'm in for a treat, sounds like.
It's fun. It's fun. It's very
uh,
much so, you know, God of War, classic God of War vibes.
Ugh, you can't say that to
It's a
me.
good
I'm
time.
gonna lose my fucking mind. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like people keep talking about, oh, the side content in these God of War games are so good, and I believe them. I want to try out some of that side content, but I've noticed that when I get to the side content, I get there and I'm like, oh fuck, I don't have the leveling up requirements for this. Like I'm so underpowered, I'm barely doing any damage. So I've actually there was one side quest thing I did where it looked like it was just an abandoned library and I got this important item and
Mm.
then I was gonna leave and then there was a boss battle right as I was trying to leave. I could not get through that boss fight. It took me a good hour of just trial and error. And so I just went back to a previous save and said, I'm gonna come back for this later. So I'm doing that with most of the things in the game. I'm gonna just come back to all the side stuff later. I'm trying to just run through the main campaign as much as I can because I think at some point the main campaign is gonna get too highly leveled for me and I'll have to go grind
Yeah.
somewhere else. But um, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm having a good time. I want to beat it. I think I can beat it. But as all my weekends are now, I'm not just at my place. I'm doing something with the girlfriend. So
I
that's gonna be about half my weekend, and then the other half might be God of War. We'll see.
I love that in the Spoonful lore, right? You've been attempting to beat God of War for the last like
Half a
eight
year.
episodes, like 8, 10, 9 episodes, something like that, right?
Yep,
In the
exactly.
time since we last talked about God of War, I not only started, but I beat Jedi Survivor, which is one of the things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the game itself, but I also kind of want to touch on the whole release fiasco sort of thing. It's a very interesting
Mm,
topic to me because when I was pre-ordering the game, right? I got a lot of money. I think I talked about that on the last episode. I got a lot of money for my birthday because I had just people like my family asked me, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, "I'm broke. I need money for video games, so just give me money for video games."
Amen.
In old school style, I just pre-ordered the games that I knew I wanted to play, and I did that, right? So with this birthday, I pre-ordered Jedi Survivor, and then I pre-ordered Tears of the Kingdom, which I am definitely going to talk about. But first, this. And when I pre-ordered it, I like no brainer immediately without thinking about it, pre-ordered it on PS5 because I just knew that the PC version was going to be a fucking hot mess of hot garbage.
Yeah,
And
I already know.
the PS5 version runs better than the PC version, but it's still it's man, it's especially in comparison to something like Zelda that just came out where that runs on the Switch, dude, which is like a fucking 7-year-old tablet basically at this fucking point. And and the fact that Tears of the Kingdom came out and it runs smooth, like zero frame rate issues, zero bugs, the level of depth in that game is insane. We're going to get to that. It's just it's a bit of a bummer for to play the Star Wars game like that cuz Jedi Survivor is awesome, dude. I'm a huge Fallen Order fan. And I really enjoyed Jedi Survivor and it's the story's awesome, the combat's awesome, all the additions are awesome, but boy, dude, like anytime
Yeah.
I've never I tweeted about this. I've never played a game in my whole life where performance mode runs worse than quality mode. And the reason for that is because quality mode at the very least is very a constant, right? Like you're getting 30
Yeah,
frames per second, and that's what you're getting, and that's
stable.
not the best experience. Yeah, it's stable. That's the word I was looking for. It's very stable. Performance mode, if you're in a cave or if you're doing whatever, great. You're running at 60 FPS. The game's really pretty, all that. As soon as you're into one of the open world sections, which Jedi Survivor has one of my big criticisms of this compared to Fallen Order is it has a lot of less variety of planets. You only visit
Mm.
about like 4 locations, I think, but the locations are bigger, right? Mainly 2 of them are much bigger.
Hmm.
I prefer the smaller but different sort of variety that Fallen Order gives. But anytime you're in those, especially in Kobo, the main planet, dude, it chugs. It's like
Jesus.
constantly dropping frames, like 30 to probably below 30. Anytime you go into a cutscene, it does a thing where like it moves from 60 to 30, but it doesn't do it smoothly. Like the first few frames, like it fucking and then it keeps going.
Nice.
It's brutal, man. It's such a shame, and it's more common to have releases like Fallen Order nowadays than like Zelda, where a game just releases and it fucking runs great and there's no issues. And that's a bummer.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of. This isn't something I did on purpose. Like, let me be clear. The reason I'm not playing a lot of the new games as soon as they come out right now is because my time is occupied. But I feel like I'm kind of lucking out because I'm missing this entire
Yeah,
first wave of everything doesn't work the first time. Because I really, it's not that I was excited for Jedi Fallen Order because I told you I played the first one and I was like, oh, it's fine. It's like a 7 out of 10 to me. Um, and not in a flattering way that I always talk about loving 7 out of 10s, which there's one that I have played that I'll talk about later on. But it's just one of those games where I was like, oh, whatever. But I wanted to see, it seemed like the main problem with the first Fallen Order was the lack of polish. And
yeah,
so I said, hey, great. They got time to work on it. They delayed it a couple months as well. Maybe this will finally be the one. Seems like even now, the second time around, they're not able to quite get that
totally.
polish that they needed. Now, hopefully, patches will bring it back up to par, but I don't know, man.
From my understanding, because I played Fallen Order when it first came out and I got the platinum at the time, but they did a good amount of patches, but that game is still not in a state that you would call like finished and done, right? And
Hmm.
bug free and issue free. I will say I had less like game breaking bugs and such. I think it only crashed once on me totally randomly, and that was about it. I remember having a few more on Fallen Order where like you were going down a slide, the like the little slide areas,
Oh,
and then I
yeah.
would get stuck, and it like I remember that happening to me more than once while I was playing Fallen Order. So at least there's not those, but they're still just
Certainly.
like way too much for a $70 game. And what breaks my heart the most is that it's Respawn, right? We both love Respawn, dude. Like
Yeah,
we bonded over Apex Legends. We have hundreds of hours of Apex Legends that we play together, right? And you are the biggest fucking Titanfall dork in the fucking planet, right?
absolutely.
So it's just a shame that for a game that is so high quality, because the game is really high quality, it's really good. I still adore it in spite of all of those issues. It really feels like an EA thing of just like not giving them enough time to do what they need to do, and it's a shame. And it's just a bummer because I just wish the game ran like fucking God of War runs when it comes out. You know, there's no
Mhm.
reason why it shouldn't. And the fact that when they announced that the file size for Fallen Order was going to be like 130 gigs, that was the
Oh, yeah,
first
that's
red
crazy.
flag that there was something going on that the team hasn't had a lot of time to polish and put in that TLC. And it just fucking sucks. And it's obviously it's EA and it's a whole thing, but yeah, it makes more and more sense to do what you're doing. And I know you're not doing it purposely, but just to wait for
Mhm.
the next big game, just unless it comes from a very trusted, you know, publisher like a PlayStation Studios game. I don't think a PlayStation Studios game will ever launch in the state that Jedi Survivor did. Nintendo games, obviously there was Pokemon Scarlet and
Yeah.
Violet, but you do know that that's a very
That's
different
a
sort of
Game Freak game.
situation. It's a Game Freak game. It's not really a Nintendo game, but here's Tears of the Kingdom, right? And it's one of the deepest games I've ever played in my life, and it runs on a fucking iPad Mini, and it runs incredible.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it isn't less about, because some folks want to be like, oh, lazy developers, blah, blah, blah. And, there's a lot of ignorance in those statements.
Of
But
course,
really, what it comes down to is designing within your means. I feel like a lot of AAA games right now, and part of this is our faults as gamers because we always want the prettiest game, the biggest game, the most extra bestest superlative. We always want that when it comes to our games, but I think what Zelda has got a lot of people thinking about for the first time in a little while is, what if we just worked on depth and complexity rather than width?
yeah,
Because you totally like Jedi Fallen Order, like I said, not my favorite game in the world, but people gave it Game of the Year awards based off of
I did.
just being exactly like it was people's favorite games of that year just for being, your typical Soulsian corridors, your kind of more Metroidvania, but less open, more like intertwining levels. You totally could have just done that again here and just, I don't know, added new tool sets, done a couple things here or there without having to have a massive open
And,
world.
and a lot of it is like even though the areas are more open, I wouldn't say that it's like a oh man, they really fucking changed the game. It's
Yeah.
understandable growth for where the franchise went. It's not unreasonable. Like it's comparable
Is it like
almost.
Borderlands? I'm
No,
thinking
no, 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 no,
Borderlandsy.
no. Not even close.
Ooh,
It's
smaller.
still sections and you still have a map. It's just that it's a little bit bigger,
Mm.
right? It's sort of I would compare them to the open area sections in God of War games, right? In the recent God of War
Oh,
games where
okay.
it's not like it's a gigantic, massive, sprawling open world, but it is a much more open area with optional things, and you can go here and no, this connects to this place and stuff. It's not
Mm.
Elden Ring, right? They're not dropping you in the
Oh,
map
yeah,
of Elden
certainly.
Ring. It's nothing like that. And yeah, what you touched on is super important because obviously Tears of the Kingdom, because of its hardware limitations, where it's not the prettiest game. I keep thinking back. It's pretty in its art style, not in its graphical fidelity, right? Um,
Mhm.
it's I think it's a beautiful game to look at, but when the focus it takes me back to that meme of like I want less good looking games that are shorter, made by less people who worked more, who got paid more, and I'm not joking, like that whole
Mhm.
bit. Obviously Zelda Tears of the Kingdom doesn't fully apply to that, right? Cuz like that's a
Certainly
huge
not.
team with a lot of money and all that. But
Mhm.
in its essence of it, of instead of trying to push the hardware to its limits and do all these things and make it the most beautiful game with ray tracing and the fucking whatever and the blah blah blah. they focused on the depth of the game, dude, and that just fucking works better. And it's a shame. And it's I don't know how to solve it, right? I don't know how to not have games come out in this state because I've seen a lot of people on the dev side of things say that a delay alone wouldn't necessarily fix it because the issue you encounter is like, let's say you delay a game for a year. Suddenly,
Mhm.
the team, instead of being like, okay, we're gonna spend this whole year to fix this and make it beautiful, you're suddenly gonna start adding more things, and then it's just gonna kind of continue snowballing. And it's just it's a shitty situation for video games right now.
Yeah, it's a lot where and honestly, that's one of the benefits I've had of missing all the things as they come out, where I'm playing nothing but old stuff pretty much. Like, and also I'm playing a lot more like indie things as well. Like last night, I pulled up Power Wash Simulator randomly
Oh,
just for the
so
first
good.
time in a long time, just because I got home from work and I was like, I want to play something, but I don't want to use my brain at all. And so
I put
that was
70 hours
perfect.
into that game.
That is to have 70 hours to just power wash stuff virtually. Like, I wish I had it like that. I just don't right
Let me
now.
tell you,
But
I didn't expect that
yeah.
game, and I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I didn't expect
Oh
that
yeah, go
game to
ahead.
get all the cool DLC that it's getting, where like they just announced a SpongeBob DLC. And
Dude, I was just saying, like, someone hit me up on Twitter, was like, hey, but you got a reason to go back. And little did they know, I had literally gone back
yeah,
last night.
dude, and I
uh,
had to like swear an oath to myself. I think as soon as I saw like the Final Fantasy one of like, dude, you have played enough of this game. You can't come back for the DLC. My personal boat has shipped. I can't do it. I already put way too many hours into this fucking game.
well, I'm only 4 hours in, so the
Nice.
gloves are off, baby.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, stuff like Power Wash Simulator. I actually figured out Fallout 4. I've gone back to recently,
Mm,
just because I had all my mods working on PC, and I played through the whole game with my mods on PC. Now that I have Steam Deck, I was like, I want to use my PC save and keep playing. But how do I get my mods working? Turns out it took me like an hour. And I just put
nice.
Vortex on there, got all the same mods, installed it, and now my save's compatible. Been playing more of that. Want to get through the DLC on that. God of War, I'm still going through, of course. I popped back into Saints Row recently, the reboot.
Sounds about right.
Um, oh yeah, of course. Only because they add a combat patch. I want to see what the patch did to improve the combat, and the combat's a little bit better. Still some tweaks that I
I gotta
probably need to
say,
make
it's
in the
so.
settings, but
I know that it's exciting for
mhm.
fans, but like when a game is like, yeah, we have a patch to redo our combat. That's a fucking brutal thing to say, man. That's like something
Yeah,
went really, really, really wrong for you have to end up here, man.
yeah, it's rough in the Saints Row universe. Because like Volition's not even a company anymore. They got folded into
Right,
Gearbox.
right.
So like I've been saying this for a while, and I'm gonna say it on a platform where it's even more public than my Twitter. Hope maybe Volition should have rebooted Red Faction and not Saints Row.
Mm,
Saints Row was too beloved, and it was too much of a thing that was a moment in time to try and take it and remove all the things people liked about it and make it again. Red Faction, no one's attached to the characters of Red Faction. No one's attached to anything except the one thing you'd have to have in Red Faction to make it popular, which is destruction. If you just
mm.
did Geomod 3.0, oh god. Oh god, people would have lost their fucking minds and it game of the year, all that bullshit.
Does does Johnny
Mhm.
Gad show up in the reboot at all? That motherfucker hang
I
out in there?
I have like 4 hours played in the Saints Row reboot. So because
You
remember I
know,
walked away
in
from
my
it
head, that's true. In my head, you fucking beat the game for some reason, but you're right.
because it makes sense. It's very in
It does.
character.
It does.
I
That was my head canon.
I will say if Johnny Gat wasn't a game, the internet would have told me.
Probably, right? Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure none of the original characters are
I
in this
also then
game.
again I'm like I know two people who played the Saints Row reboot. You're
What
one of them,
me
and
and
then
who?
and Bless, and that's it.
And Bless walked away too.
And
So
Bless, yeah,
like,
exactly. So I'm like, I don't. He could be. I
yeah.
don't know. I wouldn't find out.
Exactly. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of old stuff. This game called Ultra Age, which is like a kind of Devil May Cry, but breakable weapons like Zelda. But your weapons are kind of like ammo, so you have 20 copies of the same weapon, and when you get low on that clip, you do an ultimate weapon to finish
Oh,
it off.
all right. Fuck yeah.
Um, it's a very good game. It's not Steam Deck compatible because the Final Cutscene bugs out, but it runs very well on Steam Deck. So try that out. It's also on PS4. And then also Knockout City, because that's gonna die in like 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, that's
So
soon. That's coming up.
yeah, so I've been trying to. I'm on the fence on if I should go for the platinum in it or not because I never will be able to ever
Yeah.
again, and I love that game. But time commitment, man.
Did
In
I
this
tell you?
season,
I know, right?
mm,
Did I tell you that I like hung up my platinum hunting days?
really
Those days are
did
behind
Jedi
me.
Survivor do it for you, or did some
No,
game like
I
take it out?
basically reached that point last year because it you know, fans of the show will remember, or people who've
Hmm.
listened, that last year was like a total fucking revolution of a year for me in video games, where I beat more video games than I ever had, and before it was like 40 something, and I had a blast doing it. And it was
Hell yeah.
during that I realized, because I don't remember what game it was. There was one of the games earlier on in the year. I want to say maybe, oh, it was Deathloop. It was Deathloop because I played
That's
Deathloop
it.
in like February, where I'm playing it. I'm like, oh, I fucking love this game, and I'm looking at the trophy list, and I'm like, okay, great, yeah, I can get the platinum. And I started chasing the platinum, right? And I'm doing the thing where I'm looking up guides and I'm looking up YouTube videos and all that. And I just found myself like doing it, but like just very tediously. Like, all right, sure, okay. I stopped enjoying the game as much as I was enjoying it, and then that's when it
Hmm.
hit me. I'm like, you know what? I would just rather beat this game, complete it as much as I enjoy completing it, and then just move on to the next game. And Jedi Survivor reconfirmed that for me, because
Hmm.
for Fallen Order, I definitely platinumed that game when it came out in 2019. And for Jedi Survivor, I, much like I play a lot of games, and like I played Survivor, I mean Fallen Order at the time. You know, I love to deviate from the main path and try to complete as much of the side stuff as possible and explore. And it gives you that Metroidvania vibes of like, oh, there's a little room that I can get to there. Let me do that. Or you unlock a new ability and you can go back in the map, and you know, all that good Metroidvania stuff. And I found myself doing all that just naturally because I enjoy it, because it's fun and the game makes it very rewarding to do that, right? So I'm doing all those things.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, let me check out the platinum trophy, because I'm gonna be close
Oh
to
boy.
100%ing it anyway. So let me see. And then, dude, like the first 5 trophies are like, kill 5 enemies with this ability. And I read that. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this, because I know that I'm gonna have to Google it and go to PS4, PS5 trophies. It's like, okay, well, if you line them up and you do, and I'm like so checked out on that. I was like, I'm just gonna beat the game, not even worry about 100%ing it. I'll just do as much as I have fun. And then I beat the game, and especially having Zelda in the background, I deleted it. I'm done. I'm happy with my experience. I didn't need to platinum it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm in that mode set now where I do still like trophies. Like when I get something to pop, even now on Steam Deck, I've modded all the sounds. I have the trophy sound
Yeah,
effects for my achievements there. So like that still gives me a positive feeling when I get them. But I'm also at the point where like it's less that I don't want to run for a platinum because yes, it is tedious to go on the guides and follow the instructions and do all that stuff. That's not the idea of fun to me anymore. What's more tedious is the idea of all right, I've already played this game for 40 hours to just beat it. You want me to double that time just to get this reward? I don't want to
totally.
do that when I could be watching a movie, I could be watching a video essay, I could be playing another game.
Yeah,
Like it just the idea of spending a massive amount of time. Really, games are starting to run into the problem that I've always had with TV. The thing that I've always said about TV is I don't want to sit here for 8 hours per season, sometimes more depending on the show, just to catch up on this whole story and to know what's going on. It's just too much time for one thing.
agreed.
Now I'm starting to realize that with games
Yeah.
because my time is so limited. It's like, God, you want me to sit here? God of War, I'm 21 hours into, and I haven't beaten it yet. By
See, I
then, I'm
think
like, shit, I want to beat it.
totally. I think for me, because I've still platinumed a few games, right? Last year I platinumed Forbidden West and I platinumed God of War. And that's the key. I think the only platinums that I still enjoy are PlayStation Studios platinums. And it's not, it's
Hmm.
A, because PlayStation Studio games are like at a different level of quality most of the time, right? Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
a game has a PlayStation Studios attached, at least for me personally, there's a good chance I'm really, 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 really gonna fucking dig it. And B, I find
Hmm.
that, I don't know if it's because it's a first party thing, their trophy lists are you can knock them out organically, right? Like there's very few amounts of like, oh man, I don't know what I have to do here. Maybe let me look up a guide. And if I'm to a point where, for God of War, for example, I'm doing everything in that game because I adore that game and I want to consume every inch of it, right? I have a fucking Leviathan axe tattoo, right? So
Mm-hmm.
once I'm there and I'm already, and I notice I'm fucking 3 ravens away from the trophy, I'm like, okay, then I'll put in the time to find out where the fucking 3 ravens are. That I'm cool with that. But when it's like a laundry list of shit I gotta do, I'm out. I'm checked out.
Yeah, see that I kind of had that same vibe with Forbidden West, where I was just enjoying playing it and just going from point to point on the way to the objective without even trying to main path it. I just enjoyed living in that world. So by the end of it, I was like, "Yo, I'm really close to platinuming this anyway. Let me go ahead and check off these last
Yeah,
few things." And I enjoyed checking them off.
totally.
God of
That's
War,
the
I'm not
thing.
doing that. Yeah,
No, go
God
ahead.
of
Go
War,
ahead.
I'm not doing that because I remember that first God of War game, 2018. I mean, and getting that platinum was very tedious for me because it was just walking, slowly rowing the boat, trying to find this raven, hearing the little whistle of the raven in the background, not knowing where
Dude,
it is, and just like
there's
really getting
something about the
frustrated.
ravens in fucking Ragnarok that sometimes they're so fucking hard to get to. It's so fucking hard to
Mm-hmm.
get to, but you get there eventually.
Exactly.
The spear,
But yeah,
the spear's huge for
oh
the
yeah,
fucking ravens.
I've been using the spear
Spear's a
now, so
big,
like,
big fucking time move.
mhm. Exactly. So even though I'm really liking God of War Ragnarok, I can't see myself wanting to live in that world to an extreme amount of time
Yeah.
in the way that I did with Horizon. Because Horizon, it felt so natural. Well, God of War is gonna feel natural once I do all the missions. Then after that, it's like, do I really want to sit here and find all the urns of whatever?
Yeah. For Horizon, the only trophy that I remember being like, damn, this is giving me trouble is the arena combat ones. But at that
Yeah.
point, when I got to the last one, it was less about the trophy and me just wanting to take on the challenge because that's where you're fighting a Thunderjaw and a different thing, and it was so hard.
Mm,
Like I remember spending a whole day doing it, but I was really enjoying it, so that's why it was cool for me.
uh,
But Emmett,
hell yeah.
speaking of worlds that you want to live in by hours and hours and hours and hours,
God.
now I'm gonna take you on a little journey here for a
Oh
quick
boy.
minute if you will join me.
Indeed.
Breath of the Wild, right? When it came out, it was not only revolutionary for being the game that it was, at least for many people. I know some people didn't enjoy it. I was one of those people where
Same.
I
Solidarity.
I consider it one of the greatest games ever. I fucking adore that game. Um,
Oh,
and there
okay.
was
Not
something.
solidarity, but go ahead.
No, yeah, I think I'm saying I'm one of those people who loved the game.
Okay.
One of my
We'll talk
favorite
about it
games of
later.
all time. Uh, I think there was something at the time also of how much of a novelty the Switch was, right? And
Hmm.
for me, the awe of the Switch and the awe of Breath of the Wild were together, right? Like the fact that I was at home playing on my TV, and then I would go somewhere and I would take my Switch with me, and I would still play on the go. It was such a special feeling, right? And that's the beauty of the Switch. Anytime that I'm really into a Switch game, it still kind of has that magic where, like, man, I'm playing it on my TV, and then I get to take it on the go. It still has that magic, but I hadn't felt that magic in a while, right? And I had been playing some Switch games, but it just hadn't felt the same. And
Hmm.
I'm gonna make a prediction here that's gonna sound a little silly, especially
Oh boy.
considering that last year I made this exact same prediction, and literally by the end of the year, it proved to be wrong for me. Because last year when I beat God of War Ragnarok, and while I was playing God of War Ragnarok, I didn't even beat it. I said, and I believe on this show or somewhere, that I found it very, very difficult to believe that any other game could touch God of War Ragnarok for me to be the game of the year.
Mm.
That proved to
Hmm.
be false because Elden Ring was my game of the year last year.
Hmm. Here we go.
Not only do I find it extremely difficult for any other game to come anywhere fucking remotely close, knowing that Armored Core is coming out and I adore From Software, knowing that Spider-Man 2 is coming out this year,
Hmm.
I basically not only guarantee that Tears of the Kingdom will be my game of the year, I guarantee Tears of the Kingdom is going to be, by the time I'm done with it, in my top 3, if not
Oh
top 2
no.
of video games ever made.
Oh boy, I
I
didn't.
guarantee that.
Top three is extreme. I'll say this as a I don't know if I'm well known about this, but as someone who is not shy about talking about how they don't love Breath of the Wild as much as everybody else, I played a lot of that game. I played a good bit of it actually. I played like a good 20 hours, maybe even more than that. Um, I did not love the game. It kind of hit in a similar spot to the original Fallen Order, where not for the same reasons though. I do think Breath of the Wild was like a 7 out of 10 for me because it was just a lot of empty. It was a lot of empty, and it wasn't much to do or engage with in between the empty. And every now and then there were points of interest. It's like, oh, some Bokoblins here. Ooh, a cool platforming challenge. Ooh, a Korok seed or a shrine. But in between those, first off, not even all of those things were interesting in and of themselves. Like you'd find some Macablins hanging out in a little fort, but then the fort's like very basic, very you know nothing really interesting about the fort except that oh, it was so quiet for all this time because there's nothing around, and then I found this fort. Ooh, exciting. For me, that's not really engaging me much. What I'm excited to see with Tears of the Kingdom, and a reason why I think I'm gonna like this one a lot more, it's not just all right, get on your horse and go to the next thing that excites you. It's okay, in these spots between, I can build a car, I can build a rocket ship, I can build whatever I want with this Ultra Hand ability. So that's one aspect where it's like, all right, there's something to do in between the actual nuggets of content on the map. And then also, it seems like a whole lot more, it's hard to figure out the term that I want to say. It feels a lot more physical the way that the game is made now. Where your original tools in the first game, it was, you had your bombs, you had your ice, you had like different tools, but they felt like tools. They felt like, here's the thing I use for this specific situation to fix this specific problem. Now, with the Ultra Hand ability and with the recall ability, and with the fuse abilities, they feel less like tools meant for one specific problem. They answer one specific question and feel like things that have so much overarching utility that you can use them in any situation. And there's so many more ways to get into unexpected adventures with this new tool set. And that's really why I'm excited to try this one out, because once I was listening to MinMax show, shout out to MinMax podcast. I was listening to them, and someone on that show said, "Yeah, I went back to Breath of the Wild to see if I could see if I still like it, and now it feels boring. Now everything feels too slow." And that's exactly what I want to hear, because now I feel like this game is making people see Breath of the Wild in the light that I saw it originally. I'm seeing those flaws, and it's making me excited to try this one.
I don't think you're gonna like Tears of the Kingdom a lot
Well,
because
okay.
if you the problem is, and you're not the only person I've ever heard say that the problem with Breath of the Wild is that it's empty, right? If you've heard people love Breath of the Wild, and when they talk about how much they love Breath of the Wild, the problem is just like it's and this is gonna sound so fucking corny, but the problem isn't like the game itself, is that the people who don't click with it, just philosophically, you're in a whole different fucking ballpark, right? Because the people who do love Breath of the Wild, what you're saying you don't like is literally the appeal of the game. Breath of the Wild, the beauty of it isn't the points of interest. That's like such a side thing, right? Like, yeah, the shrines are cool, but it's not about getting to the next town. It's not about getting to the next fort. What made Breath of the Wild special for me was the sense of adventure. I never felt the sense of adventure more in a video game until this one, where I see in the distance a place and I want to go there, and I'm headed towards there, and I get distracted by 14 different little things. And next thing I know, it's been 5 hours and I haven't even gotten to the main point that I wanted to get to. That was the beauty of Breath of the Wild for me. And I know for a lot of people that did play Breath of the Wild. And that is still there. And that's still the main draw of Tears of the Kingdom. Now, there is more quote unquote density in the strict video game language of, you have more quests, right? Like there are quote unquote more points of interest. There are more things to do. There are multiple layers of the map. It's a whole thing. But the reason why I still adore this game is the same reason why I adore Breath of the Wild. And that's why, and I've heard people who didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild not enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. So that's why I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if these abilities are going to be enough to switch it for you, because the core of the game is still that, the sense of adventure, I'm gonna go to that tower over there, and in the way I got lost, and I saw this thing, and I saw this thing on the floor, and I didn't know what it was, and I approached it, and then turns out if I climb that mountain up there, I found this one thing, but I can go over here. Now, the level of depth has been like tripled, quadrupled, like multiplied by a million in the sense of the new abilities don't make Breath of the Wild feel old, but they make it feel they make this feel like a real legitimate sequel that just evolved the game.
Hmm.
Because
Okay.
I love the original abilities, the magnet and all that, and the stasis and all that, but these new abilities take the game in such a more creative way where a lot of people were concerned, myself included, of like, oh man, it's going to be the same map or whatever. But because it's the same map, it allowed Nintendo to focus on other things, right? And it is the fusing, the fact that you can fuse anything together, fucking anything with any of your weapons, and it does different things, and you can build crazy fucking levels of things. And I'm only like 20 hours into the game. I know that I haven't even fucking scratched a quarter of the surface. Like, I know that I have so much left in it. I have never ever in my life played a video game. And this hasn't happened to me with like The Witcher Wild Hunt, which is one of my favorite games ever. This didn't happen to me
Hmm.
with Elden Ring. If you remember when I played Elden Ring, although it's my game of the year and one of my favorite games, last year I had to like stop playing Elden Ring at some point because I was like done
Yep.
with it. Most of the time when I'm playing a game that I know is going to be like 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours, at some point like I feel overwhelmed. I feel a little bit intimidated. At some point, I feel like it's too much. I got to step out for a little bit. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a great example of that. I played like
Hmm.
35, 40 hours of the game. I had to stop. And then, like, literally a year later, I put an additional 120 hours into it. And I played 160 hours of that game, got the platinum, loved it. But I always have that feeling of like, I got to pull away. I want to play Zelda for the next like 150 hours, and I'm ready to do it all. And like I'm so excited for all of it. How deep this game is, how big it is, how much it lets you do, man, and that sense of adventure that I loved Breath of the Wild for is just tripled at minimum, like and I'm saying three for a specific reason if you play the game, but dude, it's incredible, man. It's incredible. I don't know if this is going to turn you around because what you're
Hmm.
saying, the emptiness at a fundamental level, like we disagree on that because that's what I love Breath of the Wild for. It's that sense of adventure. And if you didn't see it in Breath of the Wild, I don't know if you're going to see it in Tears of the Kingdom. But I'm curious to hear, right? I am very curious to hear. For me personally, with Breath of the Wild already being one of my favorite games ever and a game that I look at extremely fondly, this is an evolution of it in a way that I'm shocked at how much they improved everything imaginable. And
Hmm.
I'm just so I literally last night and this is a perfect example of what I mean of getting distracted. I turned on my Switch and I was in a specific place and I'm like, okay, I have 20 minutes left of this podcast. After that I have some stuff to do like outside of the game and I'm going to do that. So let me just finish up this one objective cuz I know that right up front there's like a little tower that I got to get to. I'll do that. I shit you not, I spent 5 hours in a row because I
Good
got
God.
distracted with so much shit. Like after I got to the tower, they're like, "Oh, you should go over here," and I went over there, and that just like introduced a whole new fucking thing that's incredible. And I'm not talking about it in detail to not spoil. Um, and from there,
Mhm.
I found four other things, and that took me to a different area, and it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And I spent 5 hours, and I just fucking adore this game so much
Hmm.
already. Like, holy shit, dude.
Jesus Christ. Well, I'll say you might have a point there. You might have a point with me just being philosophically not in tune with the design philosophies they're going with. Because if I think about it, like, yeah, people always say, like Horizon Forbidden West, we just talked about. That is a very, if you want to talk about it structurally, it is cookie cutter open world game
It's
design.
video game to video game, yeah.
It is video game to video game. Here are your icons on the map. Go to the icons, accept the content, enjoy the content. And I like that. The sense of adventure you're talking about when you describe all that stuff, I think about how it felt when I played Horizon, where it felt like, oh, I'm getting to find all these places. And I know it's different. I'm
Oh
not
my
saying it's the
god,
same,
dude.
but the sensation you're talking about is the sensation I got from something like a Horizon Forbidden West. And I think what the difference is, to make a comparison, there's two different types of people who go on vacation. There's the, hey, we're in this city. We have 3 days. Let's just walk around and see what trouble we get into. We booked a trip to Vegas. Let's just walk around the strip and see what happens. There's those people, and then there's, all right, Thursday we're going to this tour. Friday we're going to this theme park, and we're gonna be here for these amount of hours. We're having dinner between this time period. We're doing this, and this, and this. I am much closer to that latter than the former. I am much more, because even when I went to this LA Boston trip, it was closer to that as far as like, all right, we're gonna do this day. We're gonna do this. I didn't
Right.
plan out every hour of it because no one can, but I had it segmented in my head what I'm doing each day, and that gave me something to look forward to. And that's just the way that my brain works. I'm a little bit more analytical in that way. So when I think about something like Zelda, I am still excited about, oh, I have all these crazy tools that I could do. I could solve any problem in the game pretty much using any tool.
Yeah.
And
And
Mhm.
to just do a quick
Yeah.
side note of that, like you touched on it, but it's genuinely impressive to a level that I don't know how it's technically possible. When I was talking about how deep the game is, it's genuinely like shocking how just it just works. And there's a
Hmm.
video game that does it, and you don't break the video game because, by God, if any other developer in the fucking planet did the things that you can do in this game would be broken. I just don't know how they did it because the level of death to which you can solve anything anyway is fucking crazy, dude. They give you an ability
Hmm.
where you can shoot through the fucking ceiling and shoot up in the other place, and it works all the time. It's fucking crazy.
Hmm. Well, it's also the same idea of like, how the fuck do you let someone fly in a video game until games started doing it, and then we figured those problems out. I think this is in a way where Breath of the Wild kind of taught people, oh, it's about discovery, it's about the adventure and all that stuff. I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to teach people, oh, we can have these complicated move sets and these complicated tools and let people go nuts with it. In the same way, I think this game has more in common with Prey than it does with Breath of the Wild, with an immersive sim. And that's what has me excited to try this out, because I'm less excited about the world itself. Because, like I said, I'm very much so like, I want the specifically defined chunks of content. That is what my brain scratches for. But I'm hoping I can kind of adapt myself to that more freeform exploration, if only so I can use those tools on those challenges, because using that tool set sounds like the real draw for me. That's what I'm really excited about. If I had that tool set in something like a Horizon, where it's like, here's this predefined puzzle space, but you can solve it any way you want with all these crazy tools, that sounds like a perfect game to me. So like, I'm hoping that that will be engaging enough to where I will like Tears of the Kingdom more, because really it's the tool set that it's about. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I'm gonna fall in love with the world itself. I don't think I'm gonna fall in love with the structure of it, but just the wacky ways in which the game is even played, like even
It's
the fuse,
crazy.
like, one thing I did like about Breath of the Wild was the cooking system. I like the idea of, oh, I know these certain ingredients are going to make a certain dish, but what if I add this? What if I add this? And then suddenly, oh, fire resistance, ice resistance. Like, there's different recipes, and finding that is legitimately fun. Now I get to do that for every physical item in the game, and that sounds in fucking incredible. I
And
can't wait to experience that.
totally. And the thing that is crazy about it is that Breath of the Wild already had a lot of things of that nature, right? Not the fusing ability, not the like literally you're able to craft anything abilities, but a lot of the depth of Breath of the Wild was like, those clips were everywhere, dude. Of like, look at this thing you can do in the game, and the game allows you to do it because its physics systems are so robust, right? And the first time that you were in a puddle of water and lightning stroke and stroke lightning struck and you got electrocuted, right? And things like that. You go, wait a
Hmm.
minute, that fucking actually works. Or people daisy chaining electricity to make this thing pop up, and all that depth was already there, just not as easily accessible as it is now, right? Like
Exactly.
the stasis ability was fucking nuts, where you were able to freeze anything in time, and if you hit it, you could shoot it, and it would have like inertia. People were doing some crazy fucking shit with that ability, like game breaking shit, right? But except it's not actually breaking the game because the game lets you do it. They basically took that and ran with it and made it the main abilities of this game, right? And it's
Yeah.
impressive and it's incredible and it's awesome. And I hope it turns it around for you. But the thing is, the stuff surrounding it is the same. It's a little deeper. There's more traditional side quests now that feel really, really like grand and traditional quest structure and whatnot. And there are more density when it comes to like people you meet and things like that. But I'm just curious to see how you feel about it. Because for me, within the first tutorial like section, I already could tell that I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna love this as much as I loved Breath of the Wild. And just the more that
Mm.
I've been playing it, the more that I've been like, this is fucking nuts. This is just
Hmm.
I can't remember the last time I felt this way about a video game, man. And I think, last year I played fucking Elden Ring, that's an incredible experience. And I played Bloodborne, that became one of my favorite games ever, right? And I fell in love with From Software and everything they do, and that's a unique feeling that I haven't felt since. Just like how this is a unique feeling, man. And the crazy thing
Mm.
is, when Breath of the Wild came out, every game was Breath of the Wild for a while, right? Like there's like all these
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild clones and all these
Craftopia.
things. Yeah, and all these games you would hear like, oh yeah, they're very inspired by Breath of the Wild. I remember when I played Ghost of Tsushima, I said that was the first time I played a game where that sense of discoverability, like I felt it in Ghost of Tsushima, in spots here and there. I think the immersion of that game, of like the wind guiding you and stuff, really helped with that feeling. Uh, but it wasn't until I'm playing this, that I'm realizing that no game has come fucking close. Like they can say that they're inspired, they can say that they're taking this, and even me is like, oh yeah, that's like Breath of the Wild, but like this game is magic, man. It's a miracle. I just don't fucking. It's it's an abstract fucking way to say it, but it's just magic, man. I haven't
Mm.
felt like this since I played Breath of the Wild, and I don't think I will feel this way until whatever the next thing is. It's just incredible.
Hmm. Well, my fingers are crossed that in the same way where everyone said, "Hey, let's copy Breath of the Wild," I hope people copy Tears of the Kingdom, because this tool set,
Sick.
this physics based playground sounds like a, like I said, Sony first party. Look, I know I like a lot of their games, but Horizon 3, let us do some shit like this, or even better yet, whatever. What is it? People who made Days Gone,
Ben,
Sony Ben, yeah, whatever they're doing, look at this, because if you can combine some freeform gameplay with some 60 frames per section, 50, yeah, good God, I can't talk. 60 frames per second visuals and all that good stuff, the stuff that I crave, because that is one nitpick I have. It's like, still running at 30. And yeah, it might hold it, but I like my frame rates, especially on
agreed.
Steam Deck. But yeah, I'd like to see people take these ideas and run with them, because even if I like this or not, I think I would even more like something that kind of blends the two styles, where it's a world more segmented, but the way you experience it is still kind of free form and do it how you want to.
If
I
this
should play
game,
Prey.
yeah, I pray it's been in my wish list for forever, especially since I played Deathloop, because I fucking love Deathloop, and I'm like
Mm.
I gotta get on Prey.
Or Diet Prey, as we call it.
Died Prey. Yeah, there you go. Um, for me, like if they had evolved the combat as much as they evolved other things, because the combat is basically the same as Breath of the Wild.
Mm.
It's serviceable. It's fine. Like sometimes it's even good, right? It's not. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just nothing special. Um,
Hmm.
if somehow like if I could marry two games together, and I could just grab the combat from software and plug it into
Ah,
into this game, it would be the
wrong.
perfect game. Like legitimately, stop making video games at that point. They figured it out. They got it. It's not gonna get better than this.
You okay? How many platinum games have you played? You played Near Automata.
I've played
You
Nier Automata. I've played. I'm not like a platinum freak, right? Like I've played my
true.
fair share of platinum, but Nier Automata. I've played Bayonetta. I've played
Okay, Bayonetta 1. Okay.
something else. I'm blanking. I know that I've played other
100
stuff.
wait, Wonderful 101.
I played a bit
Uh
of Wonderful 101. Yeah, like I
mm,
never owned it, but I played a bit of it. That game's
okay.
sick.
This might just be another philosophically misaligned thing because when you say from combat is the best, I'm like, man, that shit's so slow. It's
That's the
so
beauty of
like
it. That's the beauty of
but
it.
and yeah, it's like it's more methodical. You gotta think about every motion, and I see the appeal of it. But when I think about combat, I'm like, I want my inputs to do something immediately, all the time, every time. And if it's my fault, it's because yeah, I hit the wrong button, but it's because I hit the wrong button right now.
Hmm.
Like it's not because I made the wrong choice 3 milliseconds ago. That's what frustrates me about a lot of these from games. So if every game had platinum combat, oh god, it'd be over for me. I'd play every game. That's why I'm playing Ultra Age because it's basically platinum combat.
Fair.
Um, but yeah, a different philosophical thing again. But yeah, I want to see people run with these ideas nonetheless, even if it is, oh, let's copy FromSoft again.
Dude, yeah. And the things that people are already building in this game, like I mentioned when Breath of the Wild was out, there was instantly like crazy shit that people were doing with like with the Stasis ability and
Mhm.
whatnot. There's people like literally building full blown mechs in this game, like a
Oh
full
yeah,
blown actual mech. And it's just shit that I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm never gonna be able to do something like that just because it's not in me to come up with that shit. But when Nintendo says like you can do anything, and even the game tells you the only thing like pulling you back is your own creativity. They mean that, dude. I've I hope I agree with you that I hope that this level of freedom gets copied by other games, but it's I don't know how it works, man. Like I just
it's
don't know how it's an actual video game.
it's one of those things where I think props to Nintendo, and this will be one of the last things I say, but Nintendo makes toys. In their heads at that company, they're still thinking we're making toys. They're not necessarily thinking we're making art. They're not necessarily thinking we're making, this crazy entertainment software. We're making toys. And so all of their games kind of have that whimsy and that fun. And Zelda, all these things, all these clips I've seen with Tears of the Kingdom, it might as well be look at this Lego set I did. Look at all these cool pieces I was able to jumble together and make this cool thing that wasn't on the box. That is what people are doing with Tears of the Kingdom. Very few other gaming companies are willing to look at games in that way. Even something like even the actual people who make the Lego games, or Traveler's Tales, they don't even think in that way when it comes to the Lego games. So it's really going to take people not being afraid to have something wacky, unexpected, and goofy looking happening without it ruining your fidelity, without it ruining the presentation. Because a lot of games are worried about keeping their presentation unlocked so much. It's like let something stupid happen. Because in Zelda, all this shit's happening. There's those dick monsters aren't canon that they're making in that game. Those aren't canon, but they'll let you make it anyway because it's fun. If more games let that happen, I think we'd be a lot better off. And I think also we'd be a lot more, I don't know, susceptible to the whole, like the God of War thing where it's like, oh, look at the prestige of this whole thing. And it's like, well, if you can just knock it away with our own player abilities and just make the goof come out, then it kind of takes away from that mystique. But I think that's all for the better
Yeah,
for me.
I'm curious to follow up on it because right now you haven't played the game. The only things you have experienced are those Twitter clips, and
Yeah.
those are wacky. I wouldn't describe the game as wacky, right? Like all of those abilities, while they can be
Hmm.
wacky, right, and like they can be fun in like a toy box sort of vibe. Mechanically, as a video game, it's like one of the deepest mechanics I've ever like played, right? It's there's a lot of
Hmm.
it's not just like fuck it, we'll fucking put shit together and have fun, whatever. Like there's a lot of depth there, and that's why I'm excited for you to play with it and hopefully it can overcome the other things that you didn't love about Breath of the Wild because the thing is like they've already said it, open world Zelda is here to stay. I can't even begin to imagine to think what the next iteration looks like. Uh
I'll tell you what the next iteration is Tears of the Kingdom HD on Switch 2.
let's
It
go.
actually runs at a good frame rate, everyone.
Let's go. Let's go. But no, dude, it's goddamn what a game and the fact that, you know, it took them this long when you're like, man, it's the same map. Why did it take them this long? They had to delay the game. It's like, oh no, I fucking understand. They like it's wild. Like remember when okay. This is we'll end before this. Like remember
Mhm.
when these are extremely different games. When they started showing off gameplay of Last of Us Part 2. And it
Yes.
felt like a oh okay, you're not just doing Last of Us again with a different story and a different setting. You're like you're taking this shit to the next level, man.
You're blowing this shit up.
Like Last of Us Part 1 was incredible and it was fun and the gameplay was great. Anybody who says otherwise is fucking dumb and wrong. That was a great game. But after playing this, that feels antiquated in comparison because this
Oh, for
shit
sure.
on
For
this
sure.
side is so next level, man. And that is the same thing that's happening here. I think when people go back to Breath of the Wild and say like, "Oh man, I can't believe how blah 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 it feels," it's not because oh secretly all along the game wasn't all that good. It's
Oh,
just because
that's true.
they're taking it to such a next like mind-blowingly fucking good level that by comparison, the other shit feels whack. And this game is
Mm.
incredible. I hope it never ends. Like if I can play this game for the rest of my life, I will be happy.
Well, I'll see how much I like it. I will be picking it up right after this. I got to take my hair out too, so I can get it done. I have a lot of stuff to do, so
Same.
perhaps Zelda will accompany me during all that stuff. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to be in school and have Zelda at the same time. I have to be extremely strict with myself
Oh,
because that is
that's
a
how I felt with Saints Row 4.
bad combo. Bad
Mhm.
combo.
Be careful. That's all I'm gonna say.
Let us know. I'm gonna do some homework after this. Basically, I'm viewing it like I'm gonna get the homework done as soon as possible so I can just play Zelda the rest of the day. And that's my
Very
life
cool.
for now. What do you think
Mm.
about Tears of the Kingdom if you're playing it? What do you think about Jedi Survivor? Did you like it? Did you not play it because of the thing? Are you voting with your wallet? What the hell is
Are you
this?
are you playing Wanted Dead? Ask me about that next episode.
Ask it. Ask Evan about that in the comments, man.
Perhaps I'll play more of that before next episode, and I'll talk about that.
There you
We'll
go.
see.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I will see you all, lovely folks, in the next one. You guys take care. We love you.